市民口水人数去代表口水菜特殊，啊，甲咱的主讲人道招聚众议员。
大家好。好。我想因为有几个当了听中国的方面，在门听无，所以可能我用这个方言话讲啊。今仔日咱真荣幸会当请到为日本来的这个长岛众议院议员吼。伊这个研讨会可能是第2，所以真侪人过来巴黎安尼吼。今仔日我当先小甲伊分析吼，伊是1,500个伊的迄个学位是庆元大学，毕业了，伫庆元大学研究所硕士了，才去美国的约翰霍普金斯硕士了，伊普通的理化不同，转来伊毋是专业人的，才去伫迄个外交美国的外交评论委员会，这就是真出名的迄个杂志吼，柏林阿费啊，迄个基准的一个团队，伊伫遐做上级研究员。做3年了，伊就转去日本选众议员。伊即摆已经第5年啊，因为迄日本的众议员是解散，所以本来的迄个任期吼，不一定做得了。但是伊5期连续当选吼，即摆较特别，伊就爱为原来所属的即个。民进党，日本即摆变做民进党是前的民主党，民进党咧，伊脱离吼，即摆可能无偌久会组织一个新的政党，所以实在是真无闲的中间，伊这个时间是感谢，即摆迄个线咧，我简单对伊这篇内容吼。小可讲几句来完成我的这个主持人的职务呢。伊这个就是讲，日本伫即摆即个危机，即个亚太危机的时代，会当扮演啥角色？伊就是咧讲这，咱若听这篇论文了，咱嘛会对这个针对这个，咱台湾会当期待。伫即个危机内底，咱期待，会当期待日本做啥？咱要安怎甲伊配合？伊要安怎甲咱配合？可能咱家己嘛应该进一步想到遐去。第2点，因为伊即个论文较晚到，所以另外要翻嘛无时间咯，所以夹伫后壁。所以我看到的时候，剩几日仔，因我嘛无法度标写简单的迄个。主持人的话吼，所以即摆直接甲内容讲尔。迄内容我看，其实到我8月底迄阵，伫台湾历史学会吼，我有做一个迄个专题演讲，迄就是讲台日关系展望。甲迄内底咧写的，当然毋是共个完全共个题目，但是真济是差不多共款想法安尼吼。所以若有机会，真正看迄个台湾历史学会。伊我互印出来吼，即摆来直接即个内容内底，我较感觉可能有一点，咱若讲较即个较粗俗的话时吼，就是讲伊伫遐咧找，即个欧洲的变大咧，遮危险的，也是讲咧变动，手打来，吼即找所谓甲摆咱台湾同讲吼。讲咱是麻烦借主价，是吧？麻烦制造者， 我们寻找麻烦制造者哦。那么这个麻烦制造者，他和说是中国，因为中国它从比较富有以后，经济问题解决以后，它也有钱，也有传统，也有野心，所以他们呢就一直走向寻找新的国际秩序，在里面呢要找到自己的霸权的地位。那么这个呢是不要紧的，假如说按照过去的这个大家所遵守的规则或者是习惯来做的话可以，但是他们最大的问题就是麻烦，制造麻烦。怎么制造呢？他们先有实力，造成一个既成事实，然后呢就说这个是这样，哦，不是按照，所以他说对这个事情呢可能怎么样让中国呢按照已经有的一些规则，还有呢一些道理，然后呢在大家同意之下，才把它变成一个事实，不是先强硬的实力过来，然后就说起身事实，这个不对。所以这个怎么样让中国走这条路，就是可能解决的一个方向。那么这个呢，我来比喻说，中国以前是在国际秩序上是一个大流氓，那么这个大流氓他慢慢有钱以后，他就想当比较绅士型的这个大老板，但是大老板平常做坏事，或者是这个做不合规则的事情的时候，就是变成流氓。他们要改变这种印象，他就培养一个小流氓，就是北韩啊，北韩就是小流氓，所以自己要做什么就让这个小流氓去做去冲，那么他自己呢就可以装成一个好像很有修养的这个大流氓一样，他们的关系就是这样，可以都是这样。但是其实在中国呢，他大流氓的那么这个原来的他们的那种作风啊，或者是这个形状，其实还改不了。所以在东海，在台湾海峡，在南海，他们还是先用实力，这个就是中国最大的问题，先用实力造成几层事实。所以这个呢，我们看看怎么样，是不是这种做法呢，可以改变它，就是可能以后的大问题。那么我们现在呢，就请他来发表他这篇论文。
Thank you very much, Ambassador Ko, for your kind introduction, although I couldn't understand what he said. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm truly honored to be here making my third presentation at this international symposium organized by the Taiwan National Security Institution, led by Ambassador Lo and Dr. Dan. My presentation today will focus on China. I think how to deal with the rise of China is the most critical strategic challenge in this century, which is, I think, much more serious and much longer term problem compared to the imminent threat on the Korean Peninsula, which I have just learned a lot from the excellent presentations by Dr. Yun and Dr. Lee. Thank you very much. Because of the time constraints, let me make my presentation in Japanese, while you can read the Chinese translation on the screens both sides. 私たちにとりまして、今世紀最大の戦略課題、 これは今申し上げたように中国の台頭をどのようにマネージしていくか、言い換えれば拡大する経済力、そして軍事力、これを背景にした中国の主張や行動、これをいかにして既存のルールに基づく国際秩序に組み入れていくことができるかと。その意味で中国の台頭というのは21世紀の世界秩序の根幹に関わる国際政治上の最重要課題であり、インドアジア太平洋地域における安全保障にとって最も深刻なチャレンジの一つだというふうに思っています。しかもこの既存の国際秩序に対して挑戦してくる中国、この歴史的な現象というのが今の秩序を支えてきたこのアメリカの力が相対的に低下をしている。そしてアメリカのアジアの安全保障に対するコミットメントにも徐々に陰りが見えてきている。それが同時に起こっているということが私は大変深刻だとこのように思っています。そこにはおそらくハーバード大学のグラハム・アリソン教授のスキディデスの罠について少し書かれていると思いますが、ここではヘンリー・キッシンジャー博士の言葉を少し引用したいと思います。彼は最近こう言っています。国際秩序は今第二次世界大戦後最も不安定な状況にある。彼はまた最近の著書の中でワールドオーダーという著書の中で、世界が最大の危機に直面するのは国際秩序が一つのシステムから別のシステムに移り変わる、そういう時だ。新しい秩序のシステムが確立されるまで大混乱、ケイオスが続くと、このように結論付けています。とりわけインドアジア太平洋地域におきましては、中国を中心とするランドパワー、そしてアメリカを中心とするシーパワーとの間で、歴史的に典型的とも言うべき地政戦略的なジオストラテジックなせめぎ合いが繰り広げられております。で、今そのせめぎ合いの中で、これから新しい地域の、そして国際的な秩序におけるバランスオブパワーの均衡点を模索する努力が続いている、このように私は考えております。で、その最前線が一つは朝鮮半島、そしてもう一つが今日私のお話をする台湾海峡であるというふうに思っています。冷戦がもう終わって四半世紀25年が経っておりますけれども、今なお朝鮮半島と台湾海峡がなぜフラッシュポイントとなっているか、この最大の理由はですね、この朝鮮半島と台湾海峡が地政学的に今申し上げたランドパワーとシーパワー、複雑なこのぶつかり合う場所になっているからに他なりません。すなわち朝鮮半島はランドパワーの中国と地続き、したがって直接の影響を受けやすい。そうでありながら南半分は韓国と同盟を結ぶシーパワーのアメリカが軍事力を展開している。だからずっと不安定なまま来ている。同時に台湾海峡は台湾がアメリカと同じくシーパワー同士の共有する価値観に基づいて準同盟的な関係を維持している。しかしランドパワーの中国が領土主権の不可分性というものを主張していつでも統一しようというふうに構えていると、ここがまた不安定の要因になっているというふうに思っております。で、私は結論として、仮にアメリカと中国との間で今覇権をめぐるせめぎ合いが行われていますけれども、もしアメリカから中国に覇権が移っていくようなことがあるとすると、私は台湾の帰数、台湾がどうなるかということがその最大のメルクマールになるのではないか。したがって日本にとっても韓国にとってもアメリカにとってもこの台湾の帰数というのは非常にですね、 大事なポイントで強く意識をしなきゃならない、こういうことであります。で、中国にとって台湾というのはもういつも言っているように不可分の領土の一部だと、こう中国は主張してきました。で、毛沢東以来台湾統一というのを中国の一つの悲願として、その実現のためにあらゆる努力を着々として進めてきた。で、台湾というのはご承知の通り、中国が太平洋に進出していく上で極めて重要な地政戦略的な要衝になっています。北京からちょうど地図を90度倒して北京から太平洋を望んでみるとですね、ちょうど九州から南西諸島、日本の南西諸島を経て台湾に至る、これ第一列島線と呼ばれますけれども、これがちょうど中国が太平洋に出ていく出口を塞ぐ、ちょうど蓋のような形になって存在している。あるいは南西諸島と台湾というのは地理的にはまさに一位帯水の関係にありますから、沖縄本島と宮古島の間の宮古海峡、それから台湾と、フィリピンの間のバシー海峡、この2つの海峡は中国軍が太平洋に出ていくための必ず通らなければならない、二大チョークポイントになっているということであります。したがってアメリカの覇権にもし中国が挑戦するとすれば、この台湾を制することが必要不可欠なステップになる。そしてまた台湾というのは東シナ海と南シナ海のちょうど結節点に位置しておりますから、中国が台湾制圧に向けていろんな努力をしていく中で、まず東シナ海で、特に尖閣諸島に対する日本の実効支配というものを突き崩そうとして、それから南シナ海ではもうそもそも領海も排他的経済水域も生じない、構成しない岩礁とか暗礁にわざわざ人工島埋め立てをしてですね、巨大な人工島を作ってそこを軍事要塞化をして、この北から南から台湾をぐっと押しつぶしていこうという、そういう、今動きに出ていると、こういうことであります。一方アメリカ側から見るとですね、台湾というのは日本列島から南西諸島へとフィリピン、インドネシア、シンガポールに至る第一列島線のほぼ中心に位置しておりますので、中国の海洋進出を牽制するためには台湾の事実上の独立した存在にしておくこと、これがアメリカにとってはアジア太平洋戦略の最も要になる部分であるというふうに思っています。したがって、台湾関係法の、抜粋をちょっと皆さんにご示しをしておりますけれども、要するに台湾が一方的にですね、中国から攻撃を受けて、これを占領されないように台湾の防衛についてはアメリカというのは台湾関係法を通じて、それを支援するコミットメントを今でも宣言している、こういうことであります。ところでアメリカと中国が台湾海峡をめぐって衝突しそうになった事例というのは今まで過去3回あります。一つは1954年の9月の第一次台湾海峡危機、そして2回目が3年後の58年8月、これは第二次海峡危機とこのように言われておりますが、この2つ、そして3番目、これは皆さんの記憶に新しいと思いますけれども、1995年から6年にかけて第3次台湾海峡危機であります。この95年の7月から翌年の3月まで台湾海峡を含む台湾周辺海域で中国の人民解放軍の第2砲撃部隊が行った一連のミサイル発射演習、これが危機を招いたわけです。95年の8月には解放軍が海軍演習を行いました。11月には広範囲の陸海軍演習へと発展をし、96年3月にはキールンとカオシュの沖合、まさに台湾領海内にこの着弾するというような挑発的な第3波のミサイル発射が実は行われておりました。これに対してアメリカのクリントン大統領は 3月8日にすでに西太平洋に展開していたインディペンデンス空母戦闘群を台湾近傍に派遣する。インディペンデンス、名前がいいですね。インディペンデンス派遣しまして、なかなか粋なことになりますけどね。もう一つ、そしてミサイル発射を継続する中国の発表を受けて、ペルシャ湾からニミッツ空母戦闘群を台湾海峡に派遣しました。でこれによってものすごい緊張を高めました。日本でも相当議論がありました。結果的にはですね、幸いなことに中国軍が結局アメリカの空母の位置も把握することができない、それぐらいその戦力差、当時の中国とアメリカとの戦力差ありました。そのために、結局ミサイル演習をやめる、最終的な撤収を、余儀なくされた。これは言ってみるとですね、孫子の兵法が教える戦わずして勝つの全く逆、戦わずして敗退してしまった。これが第三次台湾海峡危機、中国にとっては大変屈辱的な結末だったわけで、これがその後の中国の大軍拡のきっかけになったと、こういうことになります。同じような事例が冷戦時代、キューバ危機で、ソ連は結局引き下がらざるを得なくなって、その後5カ年計画を通じてものすごい勢いで、ソ連の軍拡を行って、特に海軍力、特に潜水艦、こういうところに力を入れて、ものすごい勢いでアメリカにキャッチアップをしていった、そういう故事が思い出されますけれども、同じように中国はですね、96年の第3次台湾海峡危機を通じて、改めて米海軍との実力者を認識した中国は、そのギャップを埋めるために翌年から大軍拡に転じて、実に96年から2015年、この20年間で中国の国防費は 620% も拡大した。でこの時中国は2つのことを悟った、こういうふうに言われています。一つは自らの近海防御能力の低さ、こういったもの、脆弱さ、こういったものに気がついた。それからもう一つはアメリカの圧倒的な政界能力に対して、これを打破するためには同じような努力をしてもダメだ、これを拒否するだけの非対照的なエイシンメトリックな戦力というものを構築する必要があると、この2つを悟ったと、このように言われております。でこれがやがてミサイル戦力の射程距離と精度を伸ばし、空母をはじめとするアメリカの洋上艦隊を脅かす非対照的な、特に潜水艦戦力の状況へ発展していくわけでありまして、その結果、中国の人民解放軍の戦力というのはあらゆる面でアメリカの前方展開兵力を脅かす、そういう存在になりました。その後スクリーンにはおそらく駆逐艦の整備、あるいは潜水艦の増強ぶり、航空戦力の増強ぶりが少し詳しく書いてありますけれども、ちょっと時間を短縮するためにここはカットしていきたいと思いますが、結論として海と空の戦力は弾道ミサイルや巡航ミサイルの戦力と合わせて強力なアンティアクセス、エリアディナイア、A2AD、接近阻止、領域拒否能力を構築することになりました。そして最近では、先ほどちょっと触れましたけれども、7つの人工島、特に南シナ海のファイアリークロス、スビー、ミスチーフ、この3つの省にですね、人工島を作って、3カ所に戦闘機24機が収容できる格納庫をすでに建設をしています。3000メートル級の滑走路、あるいは大型の港湾施設、2016年末までに弊社、管理棟、通信施設、こういったものも建設されています。すべての施設が完成すれば、最大3つの戦闘機部隊が展開できる、このように指摘をしています。これはアメリカの国防総省が出している年次報告、最新の年次報告で、このように書かれております。でこれはもうすでに完成した西沙諸島の施設と相まって、まさしく空母1隻か2隻分の能力を南シナ海全域に展開をしたことを意味すると、こう言われております。加えて、海南島のサンガというところを基地とする 中国の戦略原潜のこの展開水域、これが南シナ海から第一列島線を越えた第二列島線と第一列島線の間の西太平洋の非常に深い海でありまして、ここにもし中国の原子力潜水艦が自由に出入りするようなことになればですね、アメリカの本土を射程に収めるですね、長距離弾道ミサイルの戦力が第一列島線から第二列島線に展開をすると。したがってこれはソ連がちょうどソ連の戦略原潜がですね、バレンツ海やオホーツク海に展開をしていた、そこを聖域化していたように、アメリカも当然南シナ海、それから第一列島線から第二列島線に挟まれたこの巨大な海域を聖域化しようと。そして A2AD 能力とともにアメリカをそのままダイレクトに狙える第二撃能力、仮にアメリカから第一撃を食らっても報復戦力を残す、そういう状況を確立してきた。したがって仮に今1996年の第3次台湾海峡危機のようなことが起こったとしても、トランプ大統領は当時のクリントン大統領のように何の躊躇もなくこの空母部隊を台湾海峡に派遣することができるかどうか、非常におぼつかない状況が今起こっている。これは台湾のみならず日本にとっても韓国にとっても非常にですね、その安全保障にとって深刻な状況になっていると。これがいかに深刻かということをアメリカのランド研究所が最近2つの報告書を出して、明らかにしております。でこれはアメリカと中国が軍事的に衝突するシナリオをこう一つ一つ検討していった報告書なんですけれども、シナリオは4つです。1つは米中の大規模戦争、これなかなか起こりにくいと思います。もう1つは日中の紛争がきっかけとなった東シナ海での紛争、それから台湾海峡で起こる台湾紛争、そして南シナ海で起こる紛争、この4つの紛争の中で、今日はちょっと台湾の紛争シナリオについて少し触れておきたいというふうに思います。でこのシナリオベースの分析に基づくと、以下のですね、5つのファインディングスがおそらく参考になるだろう、このように思います。一つはですね、アメリカの目標というのは中国軍に台湾を侵攻させないということ、これが一つのアメリカの目標ですけれども、その目標を達成する能力というものは中国軍の急激な能力向上によって徐々に低下をしていく。特に戦闘機、攻撃機、中国が第4世代にどんどん更新していきますと、アメリカによるですね、航空優勢というのは徐々に困難になっていく。これが1つ目。2つ目は中国の潜水艦戦力であります。1996年の時の中国の潜水艦能力なんて大したことなかったです。数隻、たかだか数隻ぐらいしかなかったですね。ロシアのキロ級の潜水艦。今、6月のアメリカの国防総省が発表した年次報告によれば、すでに54隻の攻撃型ディーゼル潜水艦に加えて、原潜もある、それから弾道ミサイルを搭載した原潜も増えてきて、これが2020年までに69隻から78隻まで増強される。これはアメリカにとっては非常に厳しい、この攻撃能力だというふうに思います。それから弾道巡航ミサイルによってアメリカの前方展開基地、例えば日本の沖縄にある嘉手納基地、ここにおいても非常に脆弱になっている。あるいは中距離ミサイルによってグアムの基地すら攻撃対象になっている。それから中国の地対空ミサイルによって、この中国本土に対するアメリカの攻撃もこれ払いのけるだけの力を中国がつけてきている。加えて超限戦という言葉、皆さんご存知だと思いますけれども、この中国の工作員による、ソフトターゲットに対する破壊工作、台湾の中にも日本の中にもおそらく多くの工作員がいるというふうに想定できますけれども、イラクやリビアでやったようにですね、国内に潜入した 工作員が人間センサーというふうになってですね、その特殊部隊による攻撃ももちろんそうですけども、空からの空爆などミサイル攻撃などの誘導していくポイントにですね、誘導目標設定をしていくと、こういう攻撃、あるいはサイバー攻撃、もうとにかく宇宙もそうですけれども、陸海空宇宙サイバー、この5つのドメイン全てで中国軍の先制攻撃が行われる可能性があると。最悪に備えなければならないのが安全保障の要点であるとすれば、このような軍事的な蓋然性に基づくシナリオを私たちもきちっと分析をした上で対応策を作っていかなければならない、このように思っています。まずその話をする前に、中国のグランドストラテジーがどこにあるかということをここにちょっと書かせていただきました。目標は中華民国の偉大な復興と、こういうことになりますが、よく言われていますが、清の時代の最大に広がった乾隆帝の時の版図が、中国のオリジナルのエリアで、とにかくこれを回復するまで、中国の膨張は、止まらないし、それは湿地回復ですから、西洋や日本によって、この散奪されたエリアをもう一回取り返すんだから、これは中国人にとっては正当な行為だと、こういうことになるんで、例の去年の7月に、ハーグの、仲裁裁判所が中国の主張する南シナ海の九段線、これは国際法上根拠ないと、こういうふうに裁定を下しましたけれども、そんなものは紙くずだと、言って、はばからないのはそういう意味で、あります。で、中国は決して急いでやろうとしてない、ここがまたもう一つ注目すべきところでありまして、これはまさに孫子の兵法で、百戦百勝、善に善なるものは、百戦百勝っていうのは善に善なるものではないんだと、戦わずして相手を屈服させるというのが一番ということで、中国が今やってるのは、人民解放軍がいきなり出てくるのではなくて、そういうブロック行使をいきなりやるんではなくて、海警という海上警察力というものを大いに使って増強して、注意深くですね、既成事実を積み重ねる、いわゆるサラミスライス戦術というもので、力の空白を埋めていく、こういう状況で、あるわけです。さて、その中国による、アジアに対する、いわゆる覇権を確立していこうという、そのためのですね、障害になるのは、これはもはや日本とアメリカぐらいしかない。日本に対しては、これはもう失敗に終わってますけれども、歴史問題を通じて日本を孤立化していくと、こういう努力をずっとやってきましたけれども、国際世論を動員する努力を続けてきましたが、最近ではそこはうまくいかなくなってきたということです。同時に、尖閣諸島に対する日本の実効支配というものを突き崩す、そういう行動を活発化させて、アメリカに対しては何をやっているかというと、アメリカがこのアジア地域のバランスオブパワーからですね、どんどん引いていく、逆に中国から言えばアメリカをこの地域のバランスオブパワーから排除していく、そういう動きをずっと繰り返してきて、一番象徴的なのはさっき言った中国が太平洋に出ていくとき蓋のようになっているその中心にある沖縄、この沖縄からアメリカ軍を撤退させるということが、中国にとっては非常に象徴的な努力の一つだ、このように思っています。さて、それに対して、私たちがどういう対抗戦略を持たなければならないか、このちょっと省略をして、我が国の対抗戦略についてお話をしたいと思います。これは率直に言って3つあると思います。困と難、困難を織り交ぜた私たち努力をする必要がある。で、今日は第1番目が中国の行動をですね、適時適切に牽制をする、どうやって牽制をするか、それから第2番目はさらに抑止、監視、ディスレージョン、ディタランスとディスレージョン、これをどうやって組み合わせていくか、この2つを今日は中心にこれからお話ししたいと思いますが、もう一つは難、柔軟な方、中国を包摂するそういう手段についてはですね、実は前回2014年に私この場所でそのお話をしておりますので、ぜひ皆さんの中にこのアーカイブがあればですね、そこの論文をぜひ読んでいただきたいと思います。 まず牽制についてはですね、もう皆さんには釈迦に説法だと思いますが、毛沢東はかつて、大戦中の日本についてこう言ってるんですね。戦争というのは3段階に分けられる。第1段階は日本の侵攻と中国の防御の時期だ。この時期は日本が強力な軍事力を有している。したがって中国は強い日本とは戦いはできるだけ避けて逃げることが肝心だ。これが第1段階。第2段階は日本と中国の戦略的対峙の段階。この段階になると日本は兵力不足によって進撃が止まる。したがって持久戦の中で日本軍は消耗して中国は弱者から強者に転ずることができる。そして第3段階、中国が今度は反抗していく、日本が退却をしていく、そういう時期だ。中国の力の拡大と日本の内部崩壊、対日戦争で勝利することができるんだ。これが毛沢東がかつて唱えた、遊撃戦論に書いてある。じゃあ今の中国はどうかというと、確かにまだアメリカの力は強大です。したがって今の中国はアメリカとの直接の戦いを避けるという意味では第1段階にいますけど、決して逃げる必要はなくなってきたと。1996年のように毛沢東がかつて言ったような第1段階で最後に言った逃げて戦いを避けて逃げる、そういう段階にはもはやなくなっている。したがって我々はアメリカが少しコミットメントを減らそうとしているこのアメリカをもう一度アジア太平洋地域にしっかりとつなぎ止めて、そのアメリカのパワーを背景にして適時適切に中国をチェックする、牽制する、こういうことが必要だ。その牽制手段には次の5つがございます。1つは警戒監視をずっとやる。それからその一環としてのフリーダム・オブ・ナビゲーション・オペレーション、これを最近だいぶ頻繁にやるようになってきました。それから日本が今力を入れてますのは東南アジア諸国の海上警察力をそのキャパシティビルディング、これをサポートする、こういうこと。それからこれはパトリック・クローニンというアメリカのシーナスというシンクタンクの研究員が言ってるんですけれども、コスト・インポーズ・ストラテジー、コストを強要する。何か悪いことは中国が何かこうやった時にはそれに対しては当然コストが伴いますよということをきちっと知らせるということ。それからもう一つはですね、5番目は国際世論を動員して、例えば人工島なんていうのは完全に環境破壊行為ですから、こういった国際世論を盛り上げていくと、こういうことであります。でここでちょっと一つ説明したいのは、クローニンが提唱しているコスト・インポージング・ストラテジー、これは軍事的、非軍事的両方あります。で軍事面ではアメリカのプレゼンスを強化していきたり、あるいは同盟国や友好国との軍事演習を一緒にやったり、共同行動をやったり、武器を供与したり、こういうことが軍事面。非軍事面についてはですね、情報や外交や経済面でなるべく中国の有利な環境をこの地域に作らせない、こういったことを通じて中国が行動に対してはですね、高い代償が伴うんだよということをきちっと中国に知らしめる、こういうことであります。でそういう中で一つ心配なのはアメリカのリゾート、意思が少しずつ希薄化しているのではないか。特にオバマ政権の8年間、スーザン・ライスナショナルセキュリティアドバイザーのスーザン・ライスさんの、性格もあるのかもしれませんけれども、少し中国に対する警戒感がおろそかになっていたのではないかということ、そして、その結果ですね、人工島をあのように作らせてしまった、このことはですね、もう一度我々今振り返ってアメリカに対してもきちっとコミットメントをしてもらうようにしていかなきゃならない、こういうことであります。それから2番目、抑止と監視について、これはですね、トランプ政権になってどういうふうにやっていくかということについて、ルトワックというですね、アメリカの著名な戦略家がこう言ってます。トランプ氏は明らかに中国を封じ込めたいと意図している。封じ込めとは、これまでのオバマ政権のように中国が海洋に新たな島を作り、その島に軍事基地を建てるのをまるで観光客が火山の噴火でも眺めるかのように攻守傍観するようなことはないんだ、抑止のための行動を起こすんだ、こういうことをルトワックさんは言っています。 それからトランプさんの政権移行チームのアドバイザー、外交アドバイザーをやっていたピーター・ナバロとアレックス・グレイ、この人は今ホワイトハウスに入って、国家通商会議の議長、副議長をやってますけれども、彼が Peace Through Strength という、共同論文を去年書いて、11月に書いてますけれども、そこでははっきりアジアの自由主義的秩序を維持するために中国の軍事覇権を抑える力が必要だと。アメリカの海軍の艦艇を現在の274隻から350隻、海兵隊を18万から20万へ増強する、このようにはっきり書いてありますので、このアメリカの前方展開戦力の再構築というものこそですね、この20年にわたる中国の大軍拡によって急速に崩れつつあるアジア太平洋地域の軍事バランスを回復させる、そして中国のさらなる冒険主義的な拡張行動というものを阻止する、まさに抑止監視の体制を構築するには大変重要であります。でその一番のコアが Third Offset Strategy、 これが第3次オフセット戦略と言われているものでありまして、これは中国の A2AD 能力に対して、そういうその厳しい状況下でもアメリカが反撃をきちっとできるような、無人機による作戦、あるいは超長距離のアセットによる航空作戦、あるいはステルス作戦、あるいは水中における作戦、あるいは複合的なシステムエンジニアリングをしたこの5つの陸海空宇宙サイバーというこの5つのドメイン横断的なですね総合力で中国を圧倒していくという、こういうことであります。しかし問題なのはですね、このサードオフセットの予算がようやくついたところでありまして、今年度予算案に180億ドルが盛り込まれましたけれども、実際にオンハンド、これらで作られる戦力が配備されるのにはあとまだ20年近くかかる。2040年代、この後の20年間、これからの20年間をどうやって持ちこたえるかということが実は今一番大事なポイントでありまして、そのことについてはクレパノビッチという方を皆さん聞いたことあると思いますが、最近までアメリカの戦略予算評価センターの所長をやってた方、この方がフォーリン・アフェアーズの3月号、4月号に論文を書いています。いかにして中国を抑止するか、列島防衛のケース、アチョピラジック・ディフェンス、列島防衛というのを彼ら提唱しています。これはちょうどですね、今日本が南西諸島に、を強化している、軍事拠点化するために強化をしています。これはちょうど私たちが民主党政権にあった頃から始まった努力でありますけれども、この第一列島線を突破しようとする中国に対して抑止する、監視する、牽制する、そのための、強化、軍事力強化を行っているんですが、これをこのクレパノビッチという方は日本だけではなくて台湾もフィリピンもそしてインドネシアもこの第一列島線にそういう列島防衛のいわゆる連携というものを作り上げていくことが必要じゃないか、そこで重要になってくるのは戦闘機や航空機による部隊ももちろんですけれども、相手の動きを止めるっていう意味では潜水艦の戦力が非常に重要になってくる。あるいは、日本の宮古島と沖縄の宮古海峡を中国が通るわけですけど、そこに対してですね、実は旧ソ連の侵攻に対して備えて作っていたのがこの地対艦ミサイルなんですけれども、これが両岸側からですね地対艦ミサイルで防御すると350キロある広い宮古海峡を封鎖することができる。でこれはアメリカの海軍大学の豊志義原という教授はですね、東シナ海から西太平洋にわたる海域で自衛隊の果たす役割は極めて重要だと。有事の際に中国軍の作戦行動を制限できれば米軍の活動の自由度が増すだけでなく、米軍の増派部隊が来園する時間を稼げるだろう、こう言ってるんですね。日本は情勢をひっくり返そうとしている、極めて高く評価をしている。でこのクレパチョルビッチさんが今注目しているのは日本や台湾の潜水艦の戦力をどうやって強化していくか、こういうことであります。最後結論、もう終わりたいと思いますが、 この列島防衛構想において、極めて重要なことが3つあります。日本と台湾にとって極めて重要なことは3つ。1つは、これはもう言うまでもないことですけれども、それぞれの国を守り抜くんだと、自国を守り抜くんだという国民の意思統一、これが1つ。それから2番目はですね、先ほどから言っている陸海空、サイバー、宇宙、この5つのドメインを横断的な統合作戦能力、遂行能力、これをつけなきゃいけない。そして3番目は、アメリカとの共同的な抑止体制の構築、こういうことでありまして、再三言っておりますけれども、日本と台湾、ASW、アンティス・サブマリン・ウォーフェアというのを、私は実はここで協力が今後できるんじゃないかというふうに思っておりますけれども、こういうことが大事で、これはなぜかというと、なぜ中国がこの第一列島線を越えて西太平洋に出ることが戦略的に問題だというと、これは考えてみていただければ分かるように、レスリングでいうとバックを取られない、自分の背後に、今台湾も日本も西側だけ、中国大陸の側だけ防御していれば、一応ある程度自国の防衛できますよね。しかし中国がその東側に自由に出るようになればですね、両側から攻撃を食らう可能性が出てくるわけで、この二正面作戦というのは限られたアセットを考えると極めて深刻な実は状況になっている。我々のアセットを片っぽだけにですね集中させる意味でも、中国はこの第一列島線の中にきちっと動きを封じ込めておかなければならない。最近だって、人民解放軍の動きはですね、ちょうど去年の今年の、1月ですか、中国の航空機がですね、台湾の周りを何回も回ってきたという、そういう事件がありましたね。それから日本にもですね、今ドローンで尖閣あたりでドローンを飛ばして日本のスクランブルをわざとスクランブルをかけさせてですね、日本の航空自衛隊を疲弊させようという、そういう動きを盛んにやっております。最後結論として申し上げたいのは、日本と台湾というのは1972年の断交以来、公式のですね外交関係を持っていません。しかしそれ以外に、日本と台湾というのが地政戦略的な利害を完全に一致させておりますから、そういうことに基づいた事実上のですね連携交流というものは図っていくことができるであろう。日本の場合は日米安保に基づく日米同盟協力の強化、それからアメリカの台湾関係法に基づいたアメリカと台湾の軍事協力の進化、こういったものを三角形で連携をさせて、日本と台湾の間でも戦略対話をしていく、あるいは情報交換をしていく、あるいはさっき言った ASW の共同研究をやっていく、シナリオベースでどう対応していくか、台湾はどういうふうに対応するのかな、日本はどういうふうに対応するのかな、このことをですねあらかじめお互いに知っておく、認識しておくということも極めて重要。そういった実質的な意味での日本と台湾との連携というものを、私も今一人の日本の政治家としてこれからしっかりとやっていきたい、このように最後に申し上げて、これは全て台湾海峡およびアジア太平洋地域の平和と安全のための努力、こういうことでございます。ご清聴ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございました。时间是已经到了，是吧？要不要让他们一两个？不要，我觉得他来了，但是我们没有时间让他质问。
问题当留到下晡，还是讲休困的时阵？安尼，多谢咱的讲者，安尼咱来进行讨论。刚刚是2张，这个只剩了2张。 the last section in the morning. This session we're going to discuss Trump's Asia-Pacific security policy and the promises. Welcome our moderator, the former president of Promotion Association for Public Affairs, Dr. Bob Yin Yang, and our honorable speakers, the former director of the Taipei office of the American Institute in Taiwan, Dr. William.
伊是一个热爱台湾的美国人。咱先来讲伊即几年来的历历。2009年甲2012年，威廉斯坦顿伫台湾做 AIT 的 director， 就是美国驻台的实质大使。伊退役以后，得到台湾政府颁予伊的居留证 （resident certificate）， 变做讲伊是得到台湾的永久的居留权啦吼。因为伊要伫台湾住，伊热爱台湾。 这个情形是足特殊的吼，外国的外交家来台湾，即款情形真少，差不多2、3个尔吼。所以咱即个威廉斯坦顿大使是其中之一。2012年退役以后，伫迄个台北的美国大学有教淡薄仔册，刷落入去清华大学的亚洲研究中心做主任，啊，有做担当副校长。 啊，今年8月初 ，August 1st， 伊转过咱国立台湾大学一个同届新的学院，做国际学院 （International College）。这个学院即摆还搁咧筹备吼，还未开始招生。不过这是一个新的概念，将来学生毋若是台湾的学生尔，嘛要向外国招生啦吼。 啊！咧教册的时阵是要用英语咧教，所以这是一个新的概念。伊即摆伫即个 International College 台湾大学咧做教授吼。啊，刷落来，我甲大家介绍伊一寡东亚的经验啦。伊有3年伫韩国，啊3年伫欧洲 Australia。 啊，有6年的时间伫中国吼，所以伫欧洲的、伫迄个亚洲的经验是非常丰富。啊，伫1978年开始，拢总有34年的时间伫美国的国务院咧食头路啦吼，所以即个外交部门应当是伊的经验是相当丰富。今日因为时间较迫的吼，所以我无需要搁详细介绍。 总是伊同届调的经验，就是伫亚洲，伊同届一来国家，除了美国以外，就是咱台湾吼。爱伫台湾有永久居留权。今仔日伊要甲咱分析美国川普总统的亚洲安全的策略。So that's the topic of Dr. Stanton's speech. Please.
大家好。好。对不起。杨博士，President Dang, Honorable President Luo, distinguished guests, 各位贵宾 particularly from our visitors from Korea and Japan. Thank you everyone for now sitting through my talk when I know what you really want to do is eat lunch. 我请你们都应该原谅我，是因为我觉得我的中文不够好，就说中文。可是我也知道大概现在你饿了，所以对不起。
Okay, the Trump administration
is supposed to this fall release a series of foreign policy position papers, including an overall national security strategy. Whether that will happen or not, we'll have to see. But whatever those papers say, I believe the contradictions and the incoherence that have marked President Trump's foreign policies thus far, unfortunately, are likely to continue. Key reasons for the difficulties we face in assessing the direction of Trump's policies toward Asia include Trump's narcissistic, inattentive, and mercurial temperament, his ignorance of the most fundamental facts of history, U.S. policy, and world politics, his apparent inability and unwillingness to study, listen, and learn, and his woefully limited vision of the world, reflecting inherited wealth in a life largely spent selling real estate, promoting his name as a brand, running beauty pageants, and hosting a TV game show. There are daily examples in Trump's foreign policy of these inadequacies. In March, Trump told a bemused German Chancellor Merkel that German trade negotiators had done a much better job than their U.S. counterparts on trade. A claim belied by the fact that the United States and Germany never negotiated a trade agreement. So what was he talking about? He also falsely claimed that Germany owed the United States vast sums of money, I guess in his imagination. In an interview with the Wall Street Journal in April, Trump claimed that Korea actually used to be part of China. A claim that is not true, of course, even though, as Trump said, Xi Jinping told him it was so. In May, Trump publicly declared that he would be honored to meet the North Korean dictator, Kim Jong-un. Should have separated these pages earlier. And offered a visit to the White House to Philippine President Duterte, who is accused of leading an anti-drug campaign that has murdered thousands of alleged drug dealers. This oblivious disregard for fact, or at least inattention to details, appears to have infected the White House at large. In a July statement, the White House called Xi Jinping the President of the Republic of China, news to you, instead of the People's Republic of China. The White House also incorrectly described Shinzo Abe, the Prime Minister, as the President of Japan, and called the Canadian Prime Minister of Canada Joe, rather than by his actual name, Justin. Trump's invitations to Kim and Duterte were symptomatic of another one of the most troubling aspects of Trump's foreign policy orientation, his frequent criticism of our allies, friends, and neighbors, including, I should mention, Korea and Japan. And in contrast, his apparent fondness for authoritarian leaders, especially Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping, who lead countries and formulate policies that threaten U.S. interests and are inimical to U.S. values. There's also the problem of continuing lies and distortions of facts. As of August 25, the Washington Post found that in the first 218 days since taking office, Trump had made 1,094 false or misleading statements, an average of 5 false claims a day. The New York Times similarly published on July 21 an updated list of 116 major lies Trump had told since taking office. Key falsehoods about foreign policy included his claim that the fake media had incorrectly stated he had changed his stance on China. He claimed he had not changed his stance when, of course, in fact, he had. Instead of criticizing China, he began to praise China. He also claimed that currency manipulation that he'd long accused China of doing had stopped once he became president. In fact, as many economists had all along pointed out, the inflation, the lowering of the value of the yuan had been occurring since at least 2014. He also claimed that under the Climate Trade Pact, climate agreement, that China and India would be allowed to build additional coal plants, but the US could not. In fact, the trade agreement doesn't say anything on this issue. He also doesn't understand the fact that the US is becoming energy independent through the discovery of fracking and will increasingly be dependent on natural gas, much less oil, much less coal. He also said that the trade agreement with Mexico was close to $70 billion, and with Canada it was a $17 billion deficit, when in fact it was an $8.1 billion deficit surplus with Canada, and the deficit was a good $6 billion less with Mexico. He also claimed that, we've gotten billions of dollars more now in NATO, all because of me. In other words, that he had changed NATO's contributions. The other members of NATO, their contributions. When in fact the United States had negotiated a new deal with NATO back in 2014 as well. So this is a problem. Another problem is, of course, that in determining future US policies, decisions, continuing absence of a large number of personnel in key positions. There's a chart in the book where this was printed showing this, and it's nowhere worse than in the State Department, where there is still no Assistant Secretary for East Asian and Pacific Affairs. There's still no ambassador to South Korea. And this is a time when we're facing the greatest crisis ever over North Korea, as our two excellent speakers from Seoul have pointed out. In addition, Secretary Tillerson at the State Department continues his plans to make drastic cuts in State Department personnel and a proposed 31% reduction in funding, both for personnel but largely for U.S. aid programs, which are some of our best programs that we've ever done. Historically, if you look back at what are the U.S. foreign policy successes, you would have to say the Marshall Program after World War II. You'd have to say the Fulbright Program to bring scholars from all over the world to the United States. These are the kinds of programs that will be affected by this. He's also invited an outside business consultancy which knows nothing about the State Department to entirely reorganize the State Department. As reported by Foreign Policy magazine on July 31, a hostile White House is slashing the State Department's budget. The rank and file are cut off from a detached leader, who also seems to be rather distant from the president, and morale has plunged to an all-time low in the State Department, which, as a former Foreign Service officer, troubles me no end. Just as important, however, are the continuing divisions and infighting among Trump's advisors over policy matters, both domestic and foreign. China, however, is a key example. It is evident that American investment bankers like Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, National Economic Council Director Gary Cohn, and Deputy National Security Advisor Dina Powell have favored maintaining traditional U.S. relations with China, in which the overall relationship, going back to Kissinger, outweighs any individual conflicts of interest, of which there are so many. Mnuchin, Cohn, and Powell all previously worked for investment banker Goldman Sachs, one of whose principal sources of profit was always China. Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner's family real estate business has continued to pursue sales to PRC customers, belongs in this group as well. He's made good friends with the Chinese ambassador in Washington, as does his wife and Trump's daughter, Ivanka, many of whose brand name products are made in China, and in some of whose manufacturing companies there are allegedly huge labor problems, human rights issues. This is a really difficult situation. In contrast, there are some advisors like Peter Navarro, an economic advisor, and now departed Steve Bannon, who at least on the issue of China have taken a much harder line. Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross, who has a mixed record on China because he's an investment banker who apparently still has $1 billion investment in a joint venture with China in a shipping company, but has apparently also been advocating a tougher trade line, perhaps representing the Department of Commerce on trade with China. We have to get tougher. In addition, Senior National Security Advisor Matt Pottinger, who spent several years in China as a journalist before serving as a captain in the Marines in Afghanistan, based on his experience and his public comments about his experience in China, has a much more realistic view of what China is like, as all of those who spent any time over the years in Beijing do. Now, as often remarked, I once, in a meeting with people who were very pro-China at Tsinghua University, I pointed out to them that having spent 6 years in China, I had a far better and more realistic understanding of China and had spent far more time than all of them put together actually living in China. So too often the people who make policy on China really don't understand it at all. In addition, and most important, the Secretary of Defense Mattis has staked out strong positions on Taiwan as well as China. At the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore in June, he reportedly outraged Beijing with an explicit public commitment to help Taiwan defend itself, even while noting that the U.S. was committed to a so-called one China policy. He said, the Department of Defense remains steadfastly committed to working with Taiwan and its democratic government to provide it the defense articles necessary, consistent with obligations set out in the Taiwan Relations Act. Because we stand for peaceful resolution of any issue in a manner acceptable to people on both sides of the Taiwan Strait. PLA representatives at Shangri-La predictably objected to Mattis's statement, voiced objections to any U.S. arms sales to Taiwan, and to its failure to cite the 3 joint communiques. Also arousing their ire were Mattis's strong comments on the South China Sea. He said the scope and effect of China's construction activities in the South China Sea differ from those of other countries in several ways. The nature of its militarization, its disregard for international law, its contempt for other nations' interests, and its efforts to dismiss non-adversarially resolution of issues. He said, we oppose countries militarizing artificial islands and enforcing excessive maritime claims unsupported by international law. Well, you can read the rest of it, but he rejected coercive unilateral changes to the status quo and made a commitment to continuing our operations, military operations in the South China Sea and elsewhere. In general, it's the U.S. military agencies and the intelligence communities that are most concerned about the threats China poses to U.S. interests, and that has always been the case. They, after all, will have to fight any conflicts that may result from our differences with China. And they are most wary of the upbeat assessments about the future of U.S.-China relations. In a July 28th interview with Bill Kurtz of the conservative Washington Free Beacon, for example, CIA Director Pompeo pointed to China as the greatest long-term threat to the United States, an assessment with which I would agree. He said, I think China has the capacity to present the greatest rivalry to America of any country over the medium to long term. The rapid buildup of the Chinese military is very focused on countering U.S. power projection, And whether you're talking about when you see what's going on in the South China Sea and the East China Sea, their work doing what they're doing in other parts of the world. And he continued to be more concerned. If you look at them, he said they are probably trying either to steal our stuff or make sure they can defeat it. He means both our military secrets and counter-actions. He called attention to troubles with commercial relations as well, probably noting, likely referring to the intellectual property theft of which China is the leader in the world. He said they see themselves as a rival superpower and so intend to conduct their version of espionage programs in a way that reflects their superpower status. I would note today in the press, another Chinese espionage agent has been identified right here in Taiwan. In recent months, there's another one who was identified in the United States. Gortz had another interview in this vein, this time with Guo Wengui, the Chinese dissident, who's very controversial, says a lot of things we don't know for sure whether they're true or not, but he clearly had very close contacts with Chinese intelligence agencies. In an interview, he asserted that over the past 50 years, Beijing had developed spy networks in the United States that included up to 25,000 Chinese intelligence officers and more than 15,000 recruited American agents. While these figures could be exaggerated, there's no one who doubts the overall espionage threat in the United States. Despite these strong concerns of U.S. military and intelligence agencies that are widely shared by the U.S. Congress as well, President Trump has generally pursued a more favorable but also erratic approach to China. Following his frequent, strong criticism of China when he was a candidate, and his cordial December 2 phone call and conversation with Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen, he quickly reverted to more traditional U.S. policy lines towards both the PRC and Taiwan. And I can't help but wonder if part of this was not only his advisors from Goldman Sachs, but also, of course, we have to remember Goldman Sachs began, actually Kissinger Associates began in part with a $5 million loan from Goldman Sachs. And Kissinger, over the years, after he was Secretary of State, used Kissinger Associates as a means to gain access for U.S. companies in Beijing. And Kissinger, we know, as soon as the phone call had taken place, ran off to Beijing to try to smooth ruffled feathers there. And he came back and he had meetings, of course, with Jared Kushner and with Trump. And I guess his malevolent influence, as I regard it over the years, towards U.S.-China relations continues. In any case, after he'd had the positive phone call, Trump tweeted and reverted to seemingly a threat that perhaps Taiwan might be only a bargaining chip when he said, unless we make a deal with China, I don't know whether we need to abide by a one-China policy, which could be taken in two different directions, as whether as a threat to both Taiwan or to China. In the course of his confirmation hearing, however, Secretary Tillerson specifically reassured America that Taiwan are friends of the United States and should not be treated as a bargaining chip. And he said the U.S. commitment to Taiwan was both a legal commitment and a moral imperative, probably the strongest language I've heard in some time about Taiwan. I guess going back to when Hillary Clinton said it was an important strategic and economic partner, or security and economic partner. So it was reminiscent of that. Significantly also, he didn't mention the 3 communiques, but he did mention, he reaffirmed, or if he said the 3 communiques, he also specifically reaffirmed the 6 assurances one of which there will be no change in the U.S. position on Taiwan's sovereignty. Nevertheless, we then had the April 6-7 meeting with Xi Jinping in Mar-a-Lago. And Trump erroneously seemed to think he and Xi had reached a meeting of minds. Somehow Xi would bring North Korea to heel and that China would take steps to reduce its huge trade surplus with the United States. Despite getting nothing concrete from Xi, Trump was effusive in praising his imagined friendship with the PRC's ruler. Quote, "We had great chemistry together. We like each other. I like him a lot. I think his wife is terrific." While admitting that so far I've gotten nothing, absolutely nothing, he said, "But we have developed a friendship. I can see that, and I think the long term we're going to have a very, very great relationship, and I look very much forward to it." For anyone who's ever dealt with the Chinese, this is just beyond belief to talk in this manner. Despite the absence of any progress on North Korea, President Trump continued to praise Xi Jinping. Only hours after still jailed Chinese dissident Nobel Prize laureate Liu Xiaobo died on July 13th, Trump, in a joint press conference with French President Macron, called Xi a friend and a great leader he respects. Quote, "He is a very talented man. I think he's a very good man. He loves China, I can tell you. He loves China. He wants to do what's right for China." Well, what about doing right for what's good for the U.S.? Foregoing an earlier condemnation of China's trade policies, he reached a so-called agreement with Xi at Mar-a-Lago for a 100-day effort to resolve bilateral trade differences before the inaugural meeting of the U.S.-China Comprehensive Economic Dialogue. When the meeting convened, however, on July 19th, the Chinese quickly deflated Trump's hopes. China refused to give the United States any numerical benchmarks for reducing the trade surplus, the steel overcapacity, rejected tariff reductions on U.S. autos, greater access to financial markets, and refused to loosen China's data localization requirements. Premier Wang is typically criticized what he called outdated U.S. regulations on export controls and repeated the oft-heard argument that the U.S. isn't exporting to us the advanced technologies we need. It was basically is tantamount to an invitation to give us more technology that we can steal and then reproduce. When China has the worst record in the world on intellectual property rights with the United States. Some estimates as high as 85% of all U.S. IPR theft is by China. So, in fact, on August 12th, again, another turnaround, the U.S. Trump administration announced it would launch an investigation of Chinese IPR violations. I don't know why it needed an investigation. There have been many. They're on the public record, both by Congress and by congressional reports. So overall, this experience of his encounter with the Chinese and this particular negotiation on trade is what we in China, businessmen in China in the late 1980s called friendship business. And by that, the Chinese seem to me to always mean you give the Chinese business and technology and money, and they give you their friendship. So it's not an even deal. After North Korea fired an intercontinental ballistic missile on July 28th that landed in Japan's maritime exclusive economic zone, President Trump finally seemed to realize that his flattery of Xi and words of friendship had accomplished nothing. In a tweet on July 30, he fumed, "I am very disappointed in China. Our foolish past leaders, as opposed to me, have allowed them to make hundreds of billions of dollars in trade, yet they do nothing for us in North Korea, just talk. We will no longer allow this to continue. China could easily solve this problem. Well, okay, China's also been unhappy with the US. Washington announced on June 29th the arms deal worth $1.42 billion US. The same day announced a series of sanctions against Chinese individuals and entities doing business with North Korea. I think there should be much tougher sanctions, unilateral sanctions by the US on North Korea if we're going to stop what North Korea is doing short of a military conflict. That's my own view. But anyway, that was a step in the right direction. The Trump administration also approved increased freedom of navigation actions, transits in the South China Sea and elsewhere. And we had, as of August 10th, we had 3 freedom of navigation exercises within China's claimed territorial waters in the South China Sea, including the Mischief Reef. We've also had, on the positive side, continuing congressional support for Taiwan as in years past. But unfortunately, a lot of this legislation may never be passed, or it may not get approved or supported in the White House. On May 4th, 6 US senators introduced the Taiwan Travel Act, a reiteration of earlier congressional bills calling for more visits between officials of Taiwan and the United States at all levels, including higher levels. And instead of restrictions on those visits, on June 28th, the Senate Armed Services Committee approved a bill calling for resumption of port visits for Taiwan, and apparently we are going forward with some mutual participation in naval exercises, or that's what I'm reading now in the media. This call for the resumption of port visits, that would be, if it happened, the first time since 1979. It also directs the Pentagon to help Taiwan develop indigenous undersea warfare programs and recommends strengthened strategic cooperation. There was another bill introduced which would require senior military and diplomatic exchanges and an annual strategic dialogue at higher levels, port visits, and Taiwan port visits to the United States. There was another bill asking that the US government do more to help Taiwan become a full member of the World Health Organization, which probably won't happen because China seems to have a lock on the bureaucracies in international organizations where they've put many people or many of their client states dependent on Chinese investment in aid in key positions who always vote. Let's remember that when Kim Jong-il died, the General Assembly of the UN held a moment of silence in honor of that great dictator. So you can't expect much from international organizations. I would say overall, though, given these ups and downs, on balance, all of Trump's comments, both negative, positive, and negative rhetoric about China, US policies towards PRC and Taiwan have not radically changed as of now. But I would say that overall US attitudes toward China continue to get tougher in the face of continuing differences over North Korea, the South China Sea, Taiwan, and trade. Meanwhile, US attitudes towards Taiwan, certainly in Congress, remain positive, especially in the Congress. Despite Trump's strong criticism of NATO and earlier our alliances with Japan and Tokyo, President Trump has found it necessary to strengthen US ties with both countries. And despite Trump's seeming infatuation with both Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping and his attempts to improve relations with both countries, overall relations with these key adversaries, in my view, are continuing to grow worse. A similar stiffening of the US stance towards China was evident over the course of President Obama's 2 terms. If you remember, between his first visit to China in November of 2010 and his pivot to Asia first announced by Secretary Clinton in October of 2011, there clearly was a recognition of the the strategic need to rebalance toward Asia, the importance of Asia, as well as the negotiation of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, a trade agreement, which we signed on February 4th, 2016. So for all the sound and fury of Trump, his campaign promises and his twits, perhaps the most consequential Trump policies have been two. Most important, withdrawal of the U.S. participation from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, an ill-considered move which has reduced both the strategic and economic leverage of the United States in Asia, and also something that reduces the confidence of Asian countries who are already economically dependent on China that the U.S. will be there strategically with them. And with the climate change agreement, it's still too soon because there are so many states and NGOs and so many of the clauses in the climate change agreement depend on individual actions. It's possible that maybe the spirit and a good bit of the substance of the climate change agreement will still go into effect. We'll have to see. A more subtle shift, but even more worrisome, or just as worrisome for me as the departure from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, is Trump's departure from President Obama's focus on the importance of Asia to America's future, and his concomitant desire to withdraw forces from Iraq, Afghanistan, and not to get involved in Syria. In fact, now he's put more troops again into the Middle East and Afghanistan. And according to media reports, was not convinced, even though according to media, he was not convinced more troops, after 16 years of war, more troops in Afghanistan would do anything. This appears to reflect, in my view, the objectively unjustified preoccupation with terrorism on the part of both Trump and his many senior military advisors, all of whom served in the U.S. military in the Middle East and Afghanistan. And often where you have sat and what you have done determines your view of the world. I served both in the Middle East, and then I decided that there was no future and no hope in the Middle East, and I went to Asia. So I have a different view. I think it's pointless, the U.S. involvement in what are essentially tribal and religious conflicts that the United States will not be able to solve or help solve. Besides, given the growing energy independence of the United States, we're increasingly getting more energy from natural gas through fracking and are going to become a net exporter of energy. In fact, one of the supposed agreements with China was to export natural gas to them. And if you look at the chart I've shown, we're not going to be dependent on Middle East oil at all anymore. It's not a strategic interest of the U.S. to be involved in the Middle East. And if your argument is we have to make the world safe for terrorism, I put a chart that you'll see in the magazine that shows that between 2001 and the attack on 9/11, this was a CNN survey, and 2014, some 3,400 Americans died just around the world from terrorism, and almost 3,000 of those died in the 9/11 attacks. In other words, since then, about 400 people plus, a little bit over 400 people died from terrorism worldwide. In that same period of time, 440,000 people died in the United States alone from domestic gun violence. I'm sure if you did surveys of traffic deaths, deaths from smoking, deaths from alcoholism, you'd find that they're greater threats to the United States as well. So terrorism always needs, as much as it gets headlines, to be put in rational perspective. Absent the North Korean bone in America's throat, it's not clear that Trump would have paid nearly as much attention to Asia, or that U.S. relations with Japan and Korea would not have worsened over trade deficits and perceived imbalance in military burden sharing based on misunderstandings on Trump's part, who appears never to have received a briefing on actually how much Korea, NATO, and Japan contribute to defense sharing. Trump's decision to try to get China to solve the North Korean nuclear problem also demonstrated a woeful ignorance of the intense U.S. diplomatic efforts, extending back at least to President Clinton. I know because I worked during that administration, and I wrote many of the papers on the six-party talks and the press guidance in which we were always praising China for its role in solving peacefully the North Korean problem, none of which worked. So, in the same way, his ignorance of the advantages of the TPP showed he didn't understand its trade advantages, and the need to embrace more closely our Asian friends. As of this writing, however, or as this point in time, it's difficult for me to perceive a coherent Trump policy toward Asia. Aside from slogans like America First, we have only his tweeted comments, often expressing displeasure about one issue or another. What we lack is a positive agenda and clear directions. Nonetheless, I'd offer a few personal thoughts about the future we face in Asia, whatever Trump may do. First of all, I think that the North Korean nuclear problem is going to continue. The sixth North Korean nuclear test on September 3 with a hydrogen bomb was another blatant signal that this problem is going to continue to fester. Nonetheless, it serves no one's interests for a conflict, a military conflict, to erupt. When I worked for Undersecretary for Political Affairs and we flew to Seoul sometime during the Clinton administration, and the Clinton administration was talking about a kinetic, that is a military response to North Korean nuclear problem. The commander-in-chief at the time of the U.S. forces in Korea flew with us in a helicopter over the River Han and described to us what would happen in the streets of Seoul below, and the tens of thousands of people who would be killed in the first hours of a military conflict. And when we went back, the Undersecretary drafted a memo which I think played a key role in the fact that they began to look for other solutions. It's not that we can't win such a war, but the cost is just too high. So unless they have a preventive solution that works, or a cryptographic attack that works, I think we're probably going to face more of the same. But I also think that as a result, one thing is going to happen is Japan and Korea are going to be more willing to develop more sophisticated weapon systems. The South Korean government has already announced that it would like to further strengthen its own ballistic missile defenses and would like to expand both the payload and apparently it indicated, I take it as an indication, they want to extend the payload and the reach of its own missiles, and of course it allowed the THAAD missile program to go forward, and there may be even more of that. Also, we know the South Korean public is far more willing than the Japanese public to consider developing their own nuclear weapons based on polling in South Korea. I think it's a much bigger reach for the Japanese public continuing their own suffering from U.S. nuclear attacks. Still, Japan is the only country the United States has allowed to acquire the technology it would need to develop nuclear weapons, and it reprocesses nuclear fuel. And if it were to happen, if Japan were ever to make that decision, the fulfillment of China's worst nightmare, because at one point they used to say they were happy the U.S. remained in Asia because it prevented the Japanese from developing nuclear weapons. As a Japanese official once said to me when I said, well, I guess you could have a nuclear weapon in a month or two, huh? And he said, well, it may take that long, but I doubt it. So it could come much more quickly. So the whole situation could be up in the air. It is likely, as I already indicated, that the U.S.-China relationship is going to continue to fray. The PRC's continuing reluctance to put pressure on North Korea to halt its programs has called for prompted calls from many in Washington to impose tougher sanctions against Chinese companies. We'll have to see how the current sanctions work and whether there will be more. It was no surprise Treasury Department already imposed some sanctions. As usual, China objected to these, but as already been indicated, China wants to have it both ways. It really doesn't worry anymore. Once I had a meeting with the Chinese about when, after India exploded a nuclear weapon. And they said, well, we're not really worried about it. India wouldn't use it against us. I think that is actually, as been said, the attitude of the Chinese towards North Korea. The importance of North Korea as a buffer state, the geostrategic importance is all important to China. Meanwhile, China's aggressive maritime measures in the oceans or seas around them, its huge trade surplus with the U.S., its IPR violations, unwillingness to trade on an equitable basis have also reinforced the growing sentiment in the U.S. that the overall bilateral relationship is out of whack and does not any longer serve U.S. interests. I think the Kissingerian consensus is beginning to erode and is changing. China's own domestic policies limit Xi Jinping's flexibility, and especially what we see in the 19th Party Congress is probably going to be no change with regard to these foreign policies, and we'll have enormous economic problems, particularly if the Chinese retaliate to U.S. Sanctions, and there's a significant drop in trade. But that kind of drop in trade doesn't necessarily bode for Taiwan. What I always worry about is an erosion of relations with China. The Chinese will take it out on Taiwan. It's an easier step. And we know they continue to ratchet up pressure against Taiwan. The other thing is, though, I don't really worry. There are a lot of people who keep on saying the U.S. economy is interdependent with China, and therefore the U.S. can't really do anything. Even guys like John Mearsheimer, the offensive realism theorists, say that. But then it goes to argue that strategic interests always outweigh economic interests. And in fact, we have huge strategic concerns, growing strategic concerns about China. And if you look at the objective data, the United States, of all the major countries in the world, only 12% of its exports of goods and services, the lowest in the world, depends on those exports. Only 12% of its GDP. So, and of that, the majority are exports to Mexico, to Canada, followed by the EU and China. So it's a very small percent. One estimate in 2015 was U.S. trade dependence for major companies in the United States was about 1%. So people need to take a hard look at some of these figures and not just say the easy phrase, oh, they're too intertwined, can't separate them. I think my own view is that if there were a trade war, China has a lot more to lose than the United States does. In fact, a lot of American workers would welcome it. So, my final point is that as a result of this situation, the U.S. should have no choice but to increase its support for Taiwan through arms trade and diplomacy. The more unstable East Asia is, the more the United States should value Taiwan's critical geostrategic importance with China. And to remember that the United States' relationship with China is not only based on common interests, but also on common values, as it is also with our fellow democracies, Japan and Korea. We need to reinforce the long-held U.S. view about the continuing importance of maintaining the viability of Taiwan as a democracy, if that is what the will of the Taiwanese people is. Therefore, it's especially good news to hear about the arms sale agreement, although that's probably enough. Moreover, there was very discouraging news on the trade front in late June when the American Chamber of Commerce visited Taiwan, because they said that while in the Congress it was marked by recognition of democratic values and support for human rights, and there was a positive attitude, but Trump administration officials tended to be very negative on Taiwan's trade. You know, the very fact that Trump is also now talking about withdrawing from the U.S.-Korea trade agreement, a very foolish tweet and attitude, despite the North Korean hydrogen bomb. You know, that's another discouraging trade signal. But for all these reasons, it's also increasingly important that democratic countries like Australia, India, Japan, and Korea also find the political will to give greater support to Taiwan, which is increasingly isolated and pressured by China. Now that the Trump administration has reaffirmed the importance of alliances with Japan and South Korea, both allies also need to consider further the strategic implications for them of a Taiwan that is no longer sovereign over its own territory. While it appears that Prime Minister Abe's government has already moved somewhat in this direction, it is less clear that Seoul is giving sufficient attention to Taiwan's regional importance, but that's from my limited perspective based on media reports. Meanwhile, and this is my last point, it's essential that Taiwan continue its own efforts to strengthen its defense forces, build its own economy, diversify its trade, and implemented much needed social and educational reforms. It certainly needs to reform its bilateral relationship, improve it with the United States. The American Chamber of Commerce this year, in its white paper, mentioned 80 bilateral issues from last year, none of which had been resolved, and only 8 of which, 10%, had there been any progress on, or significant progress anyway. Even more critically is the need for Taiwan to do more to strengthen its security. As an authoritative senior U.S. official told us, a senior delegation, I think it was former Foreign Minister Chen Fu and former National Security Advisor Suu Kyi and other members of the delegation in Washington in early June, that this official told them Taiwan's security in the past had, quote, depended on China's self-restraint and possible U.S. involvement. He said the U.S. continued to support Taiwan's security, but there were no guarantees. It was unclear what the situation might be in the next 4 or 8 years, especially absent more Taiwan's efforts to strengthen its own security. The senior official observed that Taiwan's decision to move to an all-volunteer personnel system for its armed forces was simply wrong. It had reduced Taiwan's military strength and capacity to mobilize. Taiwan really needs to get over to its aversion to its military and careers of your own sons and daughters in the Taiwan military. It was also worrisome because unlike Israel or Switzerland, I would say, this is my comment, Taiwan lacks a strong and combat-ready reserve defense force. Moreover, contrary to the repeated claims of former President Ma, in the face of repeated U.S. advice to the contrary, an all-volunteer force is more expensive, not less expensive. Finally, Taiwan's security policy needs to demonstrate to Washington its determination to defend of Taiwan if it expects the support of the U.S. public opinion in the event of an armed conflict. It is therefore critical, in my view, that Taiwan continue to increase its defense budget, review and revise personnel requirements, and continue to adopt more severe laws, regulations, and measures to counter PRC espionage and cyber attacks. 4 years ago, in the fall of 2013, only a few months, only a year actually, after I retired from the U.S. Foreign Service and stepped down from the as director of AIT, I addressed this forum on the subject of Taiwan's future and national security and Taiwan's future. I spoke then and again now about how strongly I felt about the need to be a strong friend of Taiwan and how much I cared about Taiwan's future. At the same time, I said, quote, I also worry a great deal about Taiwan. I worry because I sometimes think the Taiwanese people do not worry enough. That concern of mine remains to this day. Then as now, I also firmly believe that sufficient self-defense forms the foundation for which Taiwan can most confidently manage relations with Beijing, and thereby also contribute to both cross-strait and regional stability. It is also the foundation for continuing progress and prosperity of Taiwan as a democratic country. As in the past, so too in the future, Taiwan's fate remains foremost in the hands of the Taiwanese people. Thank you.
We actually stick to the time limitation. So you talk about 5 minutes under your allotment. So we can have a question or two? No question? 所以反正咱较定要食饭的时候，
因为我回答所有的问题，所以不需要。大家同意我的看法。当然。
Yeah, okay, so 是啊，咱甲这个大赛吼参详就对啦，因为无时间，就会多谢。Thank you again. Let's give him.
Okay, we conclude our morning section, and we will have a lunch break. Please come back on 1:30 p.m. 咱即摆来食中昼，差不多1点半的时阵，搁倒来继续咱下晡的section。